The SOS signal the galaxy was not silent. Stars burned, planets moved, and ships crossed the endless void. But sometimes silence was louder than sound. Silence came when a world stopped sending reports, when trade ships never returned, when families waited for voices that would never answer. On the edge of the galaxy, silence spread from one system to another. Small colonies fell, their signals cut, their skies burned, and still the Galaxy Council debated in their grand halls. They talked of politics, of treaties, of cost, but not of action. Then it came, a signal. It was raw, broken, full of static, but its message was clear. It was a call for help, a desperate SOS from a dying world. The voice trembled as it spoke. To anyone who can hear, we are under attack. They are unstoppable, please someone answer us. The council chambers shook with the weight of the broadcast. Delegates whispered in fear. They knew who the attackers were. A predator empire, ruthless and cruel. They consumed weaker species, and they never stopped until nothing was left. But the council was divided. Some argued to ignore it. Others begged to send fleets, but everyone knew the truth. No one wanted to face the predators alone. Whispers began about the old legends, the Deathworlders, humanity, the species from Earth who once stood against impossible odds. They were few, but their fleets were said to be unmatched, their soldiers unbreakable, their resolve like iron. Yet humanity had vanished. Long ago they withdrew from the council. They sealed their borders. Their fleets disappeared into dark space and their worlds grew quiet. No one knew if they would ever return. Still the signal spread, across trade lanes, through pirate relays, past hidden outposts. The SOS carried not only fear but also hope. Hope that the Deathworlders might hear it. On a distant moon, an old station picked up the call. Dust covered its consoles, cobwebs filled its halls. But deep inside, machines woke. Red lights flickered. Ancient codes unlocked. Screens displayed one word again and again. SOS. Human officers stationed in the shadows of forgotten space stirred. For years they lived in silence, training, watching, waiting for a day that might never come. Now that day had arrived. The commander stood before his crew, the SOS playing in the background. The voice of the dying alien child repeating with static, "Please someone help us." The commander's jaw tightened. His eyes burned with fire. He spoke only 2 words. "Wake them." Alarms echoed through the hidden base. Hangar doors opened for the first time in decades. Massive ships black as night emerged from the darkness. Their hulls carried scars of ancient wars. Their weapons hummed with power. They had slept for generations, but now they were awake. Across Earth's hidden colonies, the same process began. Dormant fleets activated. Engines roared, star maps lit up. Every system aligned to the same call. Back in the council, fear grew. One delegate whispered, "If humanity heard the call, then the predators are finished," another answered. "Or perhaps we all are." For when Deathworlders rose, they did not rise gently. They came like storms, unstoppable, merciless to enemies, unyielding for allies. The SOS signal had been more than a cry for help. It was a key that unlocked the doors of Earth's armories, a key that shook sleeping giants in the Predator Empire. Scouts reported strange movement at the edge of their space. They laughed at first, believing it to be weak allies trying to resist, but then their laughter ended when their ships vanished without trace. Destroyed in silence, rumors spread like wildfire. Old voices returned to every world. Whispers of the Deathworlders, whispers of humans. And somewhere deep in the void, a fleet moved. Their message was not sent in words, but in the trail of burning stars left behind them. The SOS had been answered, and the galaxy would never be the same. The awakening in the farthest edges of dark space, where even stars seemed afraid to shine. Humanity had built their secrets. Hidden stations carved into asteroids, fleets buried beneath dead moons, and command centers that listened to every whisper in the galaxy. For centuries they waited, unseen and unheard. When the SOS reached them, everything changed. On a black station orbiting a dying star, klaxons wailed for the first time in 200 years. Corridors lit with red glow. Systems came alive with a low hum. Officers who had grown old in silence stood to their posts. They had trained their entire lives for a moment. Most believed would never arrive. Now it had come. The commander, a tall figure with silver streaks in his hair, walked to the central command deck. The SOS signal played on a loop, the child's broken voice echoing, "Please someone help us." It was no longer just sound, it was a spark, and sparks had a way of starting fires. "Open the vaults," he ordered, his voice calm but heavy. Giant steel doors rumbled open in the hangars below. Inside rested ships that looked like shadows of gods, dreadnoughts with armor blacker than the void, their cannons dormant but thirsty, engines waiting to breathe. Each vessel carried the weight of 1,000 battles. They were not new, but they were perfect, designed for one purpose, war. Crews rushed in, some young, some scarred veterans who had never forgotten Earth's old wars. They ran their hands across cold steel, whispering to the ships like they were old friends. The awakening was not just machines. It was hearts the Predator Empire did not know. They believed humans gone, hiding, broken, but now, with each light that flickered to life on those ships, the truth returned on the homeworld of Earth. Deep beneath oceans and mountains, hidden vaults unlocked. Old codes ran through satellites, star maps reformed. Lines drew across the galaxy, connecting every outpost, every colony, every forgotten fleet. Humanity's network of silence was no longer silent. It was roaring. Meanwhile, in the council chambers, chaos spread. Reports arrived too fast. Predator fleets moving, colonies falling, fear building, but in the middle of the noise, one simple line of text arrived on every delegate's terminal. 3 words burned into their screens. "We are awake." Gasps filled the chamber. Ambassadors froze, some in hope, some in terror. No one had expected this. The Deathworlders were not a story anymore. They were here. Across the Predator Empire, strange disappearances began. Patrols went silent, stations destroyed. Raiding fleets reduced to wreckage, no survivors, no signals, only fragments drifting in the void. Their leaders roared with anger, demanding answers. But the truth came in the form of a single transmission, a human voice calm and cold. "We heard your cry, we have returned." The Predators laughed when they first heard it. Their generals boasting, their soldiers cheering. But deep inside they remembered. They remembered the old wars, the scars humans left across their kind. And fear crept into their bones. For humanity's awakening was not only military, it was spiritual. It was the return of a species that refused to break, refused to surrender, refused to die on the deck of the flagship. The commander raised his hand. Orders spread like wildfire. Fleets moved, dreadnoughts aligned, cruisers armed, carriers prepared. And in the middle of it all was silence, not fear, not hesitation, but the silence before the first strike. Soldiers strapped into their seats. Medics readied their kits. Engineers prayed to machines. Every human on those ships knew what awaited them. But none turned away because they were Deathworlders, born from a planet that tried to kill them every day, raised in a world where survival was never guaranteed, and shaped by struggles no other species could imagine. The awakening was not only ships leaving docks, it was Earth itself rising, far away, the SOS signal repeated on endless loop. The galaxy still trembling in fear, but now in the dark, engines thundered, weapons charged, and humanity whispered back to the stars, "We are coming." And the galaxy would soon learn once more what it meant when Deathworlders awakened. First shadows in the void. The Predators had always ruled through fear. They struck without warning, they consumed without mercy. Weaker worlds bowed before them or burned. For years no one dared to resist, but after the SOS spread across the stars, strange things began to happen in the darkness. Their scouts were the first to vanish. Small ships sent to monitor border colonies never returned. Commanders cursed them as deserters until fragments of their vessels floated back, torn apart as if by invisible claws. Then patrol fleets went silent. At first 1, then 3, then 5, gone without a signal. No distress, only silence, their admirals argued. Some believed it was rebellion. Others thought the council had finally grown bold. But deep inside, old memories whispered. They remembered stories told by their ancestors, stories of battles where even the strongest predator fleets were broken, not by numbers but by the humans. Yet no one dared to speak that word aloud. In the void, the shadows grew thicker. Merchant vessels passing near predator space reported seeing lights that moved like hunters, flashes of energy in the dark, ships so large they blocked stars. But when they tried to record, nothing appeared, only static. Panic spread among the Predator's own colonies. Whispers of ghost ships, of unseen fleets, of something vast and unstoppable moving just out of sight. Their high warlord dismissed the rumors, standing tall before his council. "We are predators, we fear nothing," he roared. But when he was alone, he looked at the old scar across his chest, a scar given by a human blade in the last Great War. And for the first time in decades, his hands trembled. In the Galaxy Council, reports flowed in. Some delegates cheered, believing humans had returned. Others demanded silence, fearing what humans would unleash. But none could deny it. Something had entered the void, and it was not the Council fleets on one quiet night. A Predator fleet of 30 warships camped near the edge of their empire. They boasted and drank, mocking the Council, but in the distance, a light appeared, small at first, like a star, then another, until the sky behind them lit with hundreds of silent glows. The fleet raised shields, armed weapons, but nothing came. Hours passed, the lights faded, and commanders laughed nervously, calling it a trick of the stars. The next morning, their fleet was found drifting, every ship cut open with surgical precision, crews gone, not a single life sign, their records erased. Only one thing left carved into the hull of the flagship. A single word in human tongue: awake. Fear spread faster than fire. Across predator worlds, across their military ranks, soldiers whispered in the dark. If humanity had truly returned, then nothing could stop what was coming. And still the shadows moved in secret. Humanity's fleets tested their power. They struck fast and disappeared. They destroyed communication relays, erased supply lines, cut deep wounds without ever showing their faces. It was not war yet, it was a hunt, a reminder. The Galaxy Council received fragments of transmissions, predator captains screaming before static swallowed them. Their last words always the same: they're here. Aliens across the stars began to believe again in legends. Children spoke the word Deathworlder with both fear and awe. And in the Predator Empire, the High Warlord gathered his generals, his eyes dark with fury. Find them, he ordered, his voice breaking: before they find us. But in the endless void, humanity was already there, unseen, unstoppable, their fleets moving like shadows, their weapons whispering promises of fire. The Predators had hunted the galaxy for centuries, but now for the first time, they felt the weight of being prey. The first shadows in the void were only the beginning. The fleet appears. The void was restless. The galaxy had lived with rumors and shadows for weeks. Predator fleets destroyed without explanation. Colonies whispering about ghost ships. Council delegates frozen between fear and hope. Then came the moment no one could deny. The fleet appeared. It began at the border of Predator space. A wormhole opened, not like the shimmering blue gates the galaxy knew, but black and burning. Its edges glowed red, as if the universe itself resisted what came through. Then the first ship emerged. It was vast, bigger than any Council dreadnought, its hull dark as midnight. No markings, no colors, only the human symbol etched in white along its side. The symbol of Earth. Then another ship followed, then another, then hundreds, until the stars vanished behind walls of steel. Predator scouts screamed into their comms, their voices shaking. They are here, they are real. But before the Council could even confirm, their signals died in static. The galaxy watched. Transmissions spread across every system. Citizens gathered around screens. Traders stopped mid-flight. Even pirates abandoned raids, all to see the return of humanity's fleet. It was not just numbers, it was presence. The ships moved with precision, their formations perfect, their weapons alive with silent fire, their engines glowing like burning suns. There was no chaos, no hesitation, only purpose. The Predator Empire scrambled, their admiral shouting orders. Fleets rushed to intercept. They believed numbers would save them, but when they arrived, their confidence shattered. Human ships did not wait. They advanced. Lines of black dreadnoughts cutting through the void. Smaller cruisers circling like wolves. Carriers unfolding to release waves of fighters. The Predators fired first. Desperate volleys of plasma and energy, but their beams splashed harmlessly against human shields. Then humanity answered. A single dreadnought fired. One shot. A beam of white fire that tore through 3 Predator warships as if they were made of paper. The shockwave lit the stars. Silence followed, then screams. Entire Predator fleets broke in panic. Some tried to retreat, some charged in fury, but none survived the first hour. Human tactics were merciless, striking weak points, cutting communication, isolating squadrons before crushing them. The Council watched in silence, every delegate frozen, for they were seeing more than war. They were seeing why humans were called Deathworlders. On the flagship, the human commander stood calm, his hands clasped behind his back. He gave no speech of glory, no promise of victory, only one command: advance. And the fleet obeyed. Predator worlds trembled, their skies filled with fire as human fleets passed above, not stopping, not slowing, only moving forward like an unstoppable tide. Children on distant colonies whispered to their parents, "The Deathworlders have returned." Merchants sang songs of Earth's wrath. Council soldiers raised their heads with pride, for the galaxy now remembered who had once defended them all. And yet, there was fear too, for humans were not saviors in shining light. They were storms. They were fire. They were war itself, and storms could not be controlled. In the Predator capital, the High Warlord roared with rage, demanding every fleet converge, demanding every weapon be turned on the humans. But deep inside he already knew. He was not preparing to win. He was preparing to survive. The fleet pressed deeper. Unstoppable ships moving in silence except for the thunder of their guns, and behind them, in the ashes of predator fleets, a single message pulsed across the galaxy. A message broadcast in every tongue. The SOS was heard. The Deathworlders have answered. And for the first time in centuries, the galaxy believed in hope again. The unstoppable march. The galaxy had seen wars before, but never like this. The humans did not advance like other species. They did not crawl cautiously system by system. They moved like a storm, fast, merciless, unstoppable. In the first week, 10 predator fleets were destroyed. Their ships shattered, their admirals silenced, their soldiers broken. Survivors drifted in escape pods, whispering into the void they cannot be stopped. Council delegates watched with wide eyes. The feeds pouring in from every front. Every battle ended the same way. Human fleets entered, predator forces resisted, and then silence. Nothing left but wreckage and fire. What shocked the galaxy most was not only the power of the Deathworlder fleet, it was the precision. Humans never wasted shots. Every volley struck vital systems. Every maneuver crushed the enemy's strength. Their fleets fought like one mind, one body, one will. Predator colonies burned, their skies filled with human ships. Some worlds surrendered immediately, their leaders begging for mercy. But the humans gave no speeches. They did not gloat, they simply moved on, leaving behind silence to allies watching from afar. It was both terrifying and inspiring. Here were humans, a species long forgotten, returning with fury, returning with purpose, answering a call the council itself had debated and delayed. Predator soldiers spoke in fear even among themselves, their voices trembling. They do not fight like us. They do not stop even when wounded, even when outnumbered. They keep coming. Human captains carried scars from old battles, but they did not hide them. They wore them like armor. Their voices steady on open comms. We heard the SOS. We will not retreat. The Predator High Warlord gathered his last reserves, 50 fleets combined. A force meant to crush humanity once and for all. They waited at the edge of their core worlds, confident that numbers would finally matter. But when the Deathworlder fleet arrived, the sky itself turned black. The Predators stared in disbelief. The human armada stretched from horizon to horizon. More ships than they had ever imagined. Dreadnoughts, carriers, cruisers, destroyers, all moving as one. The first clash came like thunder. Predator weapons lit the void. Beams of fire cutting across space. Explosions shaking stars. But the humans pressed forward, their shields absorbing, their weapons answering. One by one, Predator ships collapsed, their lines folding. Panic spread through Predator ranks. Commanders screaming, soldiers begging for retreat. But their warlord ordered them to stand, his voice trembling with rage. We are Predators, we will not bow. Yet even his roar could not stop the tide. Humans advanced without pause, ships moving into enemy fire as if fearless. Fighters swarming like storms of steel. Boarding parties cutting into Predator hulls. Every strike exact, every move merciless. All across the galaxy, people watched the live transmissions. Some cheered, others prayed, for they all understood. This was not just war, it was judgment. Council leaders realized something dangerous. Humans were not fighting for territory. They were not fighting for riches. They were fighting because someone called, and humanity had answered. Nothing more, nothing less in the Predator capital. Silence filled the war chamber as one by one their fleets were erased from the maps. Red markers blinking out until only a handful remained. The unstoppable march of humanity was more than weapons and ships. It was will. It was defiance. It was the spirit of a world that had survived its own death countless times. A spirit that no empire could ever match. The High Warlord stood in darkness, his claws shaking, whispering words his people had never spoken in their history. We are prey and still. In the endless night, the humans advanced. Unstoppable, unyielding, their march echoing across stars. The galaxy held its breath, for no one knew where the fleet would stop, or if it would stop at all. The price of answering. The Deathworlder fleet was unstoppable, but unstoppable did not mean unbroken. Each victory left scars, each battle took lives, and though humanity advanced without pause, the cost followed them like shadows in the aftermath of their march. Fields of wreckage floated in space, twisted steel, shattered hulls, and lifeless bodies drifting in silence. Among them were Predator corpses, but also human, soldiers who had given everything. Inside the medbays of human ships, doctors worked without rest. Corridors echoed with cries of pain. Machines beeped as they fought to keep hearts alive. Medics with blood on their hands whispered to wounded comrades, "You will make it, hold on." On the flagship, the commander stood over a long table filled with names. Names of the fallen, names of the missing. He read each one aloud, his voice heavy but steady. The crew listened in silence. Every name was remembered, every sacrifice honored. The galaxy had once thought humans fought like machines, cold and merciless, but now they saw the truth. Humanity fought with heart. They fought because they cared, and that made them more dangerous than any empire. Predator broadcasts mocked them, saying humans were bleeding, saying their fleets would soon collapse, but the reality was different. Even as ships burned, even as soldiers fell, more humans stepped forward. More captains took command. More voices rose to answer. In the council chambers, delegates argued. Some begged for the humans to stop, fearing they would burn the galaxy along with the predators. Others demanded the council join them, ashamed that humanity alone had carried the burden. But humanity never asked for allies. They had answered the SOS alone, and they carried the weight alone. In one battle, a human cruiser was surrounded. Predator ships closing in from every side. Their commander opened comms, his voice calm. "We will hold the line," and they did. They fought until nothing was left. Their sacrifice buying time for the fleet to strike. Stories like this spread across the stars. Tales of Deathworlders who refused to retreat, who faced death with unshaking eyes, and who turned their own losses into fuel for vengeance. In Predator space, fear deepened. Their soldiers began to desert. Their colonies whispered rebellion. Even their admirals hesitated, for they saw humans pay the price and still advance, still unbroken, but on human ships. The weight was real. Young soldiers sat in silence, staring at empty bunks where friends once slept. Commanders hid their grief behind steel eyes, but in the dark they mourned. The commander of the flagship stood before his crew one night, his voice low but clear. "We have lost many, but remember why we came. We came because someone called, because the galaxy needed us. And if we fall answering that call." His words carried across the fleet, not as orders, but as truth. And the humans nodded, their eyes heavy but burning with fire. The price of answering was high, higher than anyone in the galaxy could imagine. But humanity paid it without hesitation, because that was who they were. Deathworlders, born from a world that never gave them mercy, taught them survival at every breath, and shaped them into warriors who did not bend. The galaxy realized then that humans did not fight because they loved war. They fought because they understood suffering, because they could not ignore a cry for help, because when the SOS called, they could not stay silent. And so even as their fleets bled, even as their losses grew, the humans pressed on. Their march slower now, heavier now, but still unstoppable. The predators had thought they could wait humanity out, let them drown in their own sacrifices, but they were wrong. For every loss only hardened the humans, every scar only reminded them of their purpose. And in the silence after battles, in the darkness of wreckage and ashes, a single truth echoed across the galaxy. The Deathworlders had answered, and they would not stop until the call was complete. Legacy of the SOS, the Predator Empire was crumbling. Fleets shattered, worlds burning, leaders trembling behind walls that could not protect them. Their warlord stood in his throne chamber, eyes bloodshot, claws shaking. He had once commanded fear across the galaxy, but now fear commanded him. The Deathworlder fleet came closer with every passing day. Unstoppable, unyielding, the predators had tried to resist. They had tried to flee, but nothing worked. The humans were always there, moving forward like a tide that no wall could hold. When the final battle began, it was not with speeches or threats, it began with silence. The Predator capital's skies darkened as thousands of human ships emerged from the void, their engines glowing like fire, their cannons humming with quiet promise. The Predators fired everything, every weapon, every defense, their skies filled with light. Their ground shook with explosions, but the humans did not stop. Dreadnoughts cut through defenses like blades through cloth. Fighters swarmed like storms, and boarding parties tore through fortresses brick by brick. The High Warlord roared his last command, "Fight to the end," but his soldiers looked into the eyes of Deathworlders and knew there was no end except surrender. And so the Predator Empire fell, not with glory, not with triumph, but with silence, its flames swallowed by the march of a fleet that refused to yield. The galaxy held its breath, expecting humans to claim victory, to raise banners, to take territory, but instead, the humans did something no one expected. They stopped. The fleet did not conquer. It did not expand, it simply silenced the predators and then turned away, their commanders broadcasting a single message across every star system. We answered the call, nothing more in council chambers. Tears filled the eyes of delegates. Some whispered gratitude, others whispered fear, for they saw clearly now. Humanity was not a savior to be commanded, nor a tyrant to be resisted. They were something else, something older, something deeper, They were Deathworlders, they answered when called, and then they vanished back into the shadows. Wreckage drifted in predator space, colonies freed but shaken. Children whispered stories to each other. The humans came like storms, they saved us, but they frightened the stars. Songs spread across the galaxy, songs of the Essos, songs of the fleet, songs of sacrifice, names of human soldiers carried on alien lips, even among those who had never seen them in human fleets. Silence reigned as they counted their losses. Bunks empty, halls echoing with absence. Commanders stood before walls filled with names, whispering promises that the galaxy would remember them. On the flagship, the commander walked alone to the observation deck. Stars stretched endless before him. He closed his eyes, hearing again the broken voice of the child from the SRs. "Please, someone help us," and he whispered back into the void. "We came." Then the fleets turned one by one, their engines lighting the dark. They vanished into wormholes, into hidden routes, into the silence from which they had come. The Galaxy Council met. Some begged to follow them, to form alliances, but others warned, "You do not summon storms, you endure them." And so humanity's path remained their own. Decades later, when children asked their elders about the day the predators fell, the answer was always the same. It began with Essos, it ended with Deathworlders. The legacy was not written in treaties, not carved in monuments, it was written in fear and hope, in whispers across stars, in the quiet promise that if ever the galaxy called again, the Deathworlders would rise, and so the story lived on. A legend, a warning, a promise. The Essos had awakened them, and though they had returned to silence, their shadow stretched across the galaxy, eternal.